Hello friends and subscribers, I hope you're all doing well. In this video I'm going to be ranking the Beatles albums. So just the studio albums, no compilations or live albums, although I am going to mention a compilation at the end. And I'm only going to be doing the UK releases because excuse me, because the American releases are different from the UK releases. There's different titles, different track lists, but yeah, I'm just sticking with the UK releases because that's what the Beatles intended and that's what's considered canon. Although there are American Beatles fans who are actually more used to the American releases, so they mean something to them. But I've always been used to the UK releases, although I am including Magical Mystery Tour, which was originally an American release that became part of the official catalogue. So before I start, this ranking is just based on my own opinion and my order of preference. There's no right or wrong. We all like what we like. We all have our favourites. We all hear things differently. And if you want to give your ranking in the comments, then please do. So without any further hesitation, let's get started. So starting at the bottom, number 13. Not that I don't like it, because I love all these albums. The Beatles don't have a bad album in my opinion. I love them all. But number 13 is the soundtrack to Yellow Submarine. A decent album. It's not a bad album, but it's not really a full studio album. I included it because on Wikipedia it says the Beatles have 13 official studio albums, and this is one of them, so I'm including it just for that purpose. But it's got two songs on here that have already been released on previous albums. So you got Yellow Submarine, which was already on Revolver, and All You Need Is Love, which was already on Magical Mystery Tour. So you got two songs that have already been released. Now, I love them two songs, but they've already been released. And then you get 4 brand new songs, which are Only a Northern Song, All Together Now, Hey Bulldog, and It's All Too Much. They're all great songs. They're not amongst my favourite Beatles songs, but they are really good. And then the rest of it is all the incidental music composed by George Martin that was used as the film score, which is really nice to listen to. It's George Martin is a great composer. I really like his film score, but it's not the Beatles. So you're only getting 4 new tracks on here. See, what I think they should have done, the George Martin stuff should have been released on its own and not included on any Beatles release. And then the 4 new Beatles songs on here, they should have just released them on an EP, which I believe was the original plan. I don't know why they didn't do that. But for what it is, it's worth a listen. It's a good album, but it's not one that I reach for that often. But it's a good album. But yeah, everything from here on, this is where it got difficult for me, because everything from here on is great. all of these are like near perfect. But number 12 is Please Please Me, the debut album from 1963. Just a fantastic album. It's very raw and energetic. And while there's quite a lot of cover songs on here, I think the Beatles perform them so well. You know, their version of Twist and Shout is considered better than the original. I have to agree. And you got the originals on here are great as well. I Saw Her Standing There, Please Please Me, Love Me Do, Ask Me Why, Do You Want to Know a Secret, There's a Place, Misery. There's some great covers on here as well. Boys, which I actually like Boys. Chains, Baby It's You. Just such a great album. Although I prefer the later period of the Beatles. You know, the early stuff is just such good fun. Number 11, the second album with the Beatles. So this came out the same year as Please Please Me. It only came out, I think, about 8 months later. But yeah, like, I love Please Please Me, but I like this one just a bit more. This is a little bit of a step up. But, you know, I'm just saying this because I'm ranking them. Yeah, I'm just saying this for the purpose of ranking them. You know, why I'm placing one above the other. But they're all pretty equally great, really. So what we got here, we got It Won't Be Long, All I've Got to Do, All My Loving, Don't Bother Me, Roll Over Beethoven, which is a Chuck Berry cover, I Want to Be Your Man, which was originally recorded by the Rolling Stones, Money, That's What I Want. Great album. Now the top 10. Number 10, Beatles for Sale, 1964. Very underrated album, because this was a follow-up to Hard Day's Night, which was their first album of all original songs. But then after that, they go back to cover songs on this one, which a lot of people saw as a step down. But the Beatles spent most of 1964 touring, so they were quite tired. As you can tell on the album cover, they're pretty tired. But in terms of performance, it doesn't show that they're tired. That they're still full of energy on here. You've got No Reply, which is great. I'm a Loser, Babies in Black, I'll Follow the Sun, What You're Doing, I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, 8 Days a Week, of course. You know, there was definitely a development of their songwriting on here, which is so different from the first three albums. Like, a lot of the lyrical content on this album is more serious and more mature than it is on the first three albums. And I think the cover songs are great as well. A lot of people like to shit on Mr. Moonlight. I love Mr. Moonlight. They do a cover of Chuck Berry's Rock and Roll Music, Kansas City, Hey 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 Hey, great medley, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. A great album. Number 9. I had to do it. But number 9 is not the White Album. It's Let It Be, their last album. Not the last album to be recorded, but it was the last to be released. 1970 this came out. And it's an album that gets put down because of Phil Spector's production on here. I've got no issue with Phil Spector's production. I kind of like what he did with it, although I'm probably in the minority on that. I know Paul McCartney wasn't happy with what Phil Spector did. But yeah, I especially like what he did on Long and Winding Road by adding the orchestra on it, and also what he does with Across the Universe, by adding that phasing effect, which just makes it very dreamy. I love it. So many great songs on here. Two of Us, Let It Be, of course, beautiful song. Across the Universe, Dig a Pony, I've Got a Feeling, One After 909, Get Back, For You Blue. I even like Dig It, which is, it's a short little, it's not a full song, it's just a short little jam session, but it's good fun. Yeah, Let It Be, I think it's a great album. I think it's getting more appreciation now because of the Peter Jackson's Get Back documentary, and also Giles Martin's remix of this album. But yeah, it's a great album. Number 8, soundtrack to A Hard Day's Night. First album of all original songs, and what brilliant songs they are. You've got the title track, love it, I Should Have Known Better, If I Fell, And I Love Her, Can't Buy Me Love, Anytime at All, Things We Said Today, You Can't Do That, I'll Be Back. I mean, every song on here is great, in my opinion. I like what they did. I like how I know this is a CD, but when it was on vinyl, I like how they put the movie songs on side 1 and then the non-movie songs on side 2. Yeah, fantastic album. And number 7, soundtrack to their second film, Help. I like this just a bit better than Hard Day's Night, but they're almost equal for me. So you've got Help, The Night Before, you've got Hide Your Love Away, You're Gonna Lose That Girl, Ticket to Ride, Yesterday, It's Only Love. I know John Lennon himself hated that song. I love it. I've Just Seen a Face. Yeah, I love every song on here except for the last track, Dizzy Miss Lizzy. I've never liked that song. I think it's to do with the repetitive guitar on it. Like the guitar riff on that song is just, yeah, it's very piercing. It just gets annoying after a while. Just too repetitive. But yeah, I think Yesterday should have been the final track on the album, because that's a masterpiece, and it would have made a great closing track. But apart from that, it's a great album. Number 6. I know a lot of people would have this album a lot higher, but this is partly what I meant when I said it was difficult to rank all these. You know, I love this album, and I think all Beatles fans do. Abbey Road. I know, shocking, isn't it? But it just shows how strong the Beatles catalogue really is. It's a great album. It's got such an iconic cover as well. And this was the last album they recorded, but of course Let It Be was released afterwards. But yeah, this probably should have been the last album. You know, I think they probably should have released Let It Be first, because this is a much better album to go out on. It was made under better circumstances. You know, they were getting on just a bit better with each other when making this album than they were on Let It Be. And yeah, I love everything on here. Come Together, Something, beautiful song. Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which everyone likes to knock it, but I love it. It's just such a fun, quirky Paul McCartney song. Oh Darling, Octopus's Garden, I Want You, She's So Heavy, Here Comes the Sun, Because, and then you've got the medley, which it's the best part of the album. It's just excellent. Well, each track just segues into one another. It's just superb. Yeah, classic album. it's a classic for a reason. But there's just 5 other Beatles albums that I slightly prefer. But yeah, Abbey Road is a true masterpiece. And there's not much more you can say about it that hasn't been said. Top 5. The White Album. This was released as a double album, of course, and it's one of my favourite double albums of all time. Some say that this album's a bit, bloated or too long. I like it as it is. I'd say Revolution 9's probably the only track on here I don't care for. Well, I do like the first few minutes of it, but then after a while it drags on a bit too long. They could have done with cutting it down. That's probably my only criticism, but I love the whole White Album. There's so many different music styles on here. There's rock and roll, there's hard rock, there's folk rock, there's avant-garde, there's even bits of country rock on here as well. There's literally a bit of everything on here. There's so many great songs. Back in the USSR, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Helter Skelter, considered to be the first heavy metal song, Savoy Truffle, Your Blues, Birthday. I mean, I'm not going to read out every single track because we'd be here all night, but I love the White Album. I love it as it is, and I wouldn't try and condense it down to a single album. As Paul McCartney would say, it's the bloody White Album. Shut up. Number 4 is Rubber Soul. Fantastic album. This was the beginning of their creative period. Not that they weren't creative before this, but this is when they started spending a lot more time in the studio, and they started experimenting. But yeah, just such a milestone. I've got Drive My Car on here, Norwegian Wood, Nowhere Man, In My Life, beautiful. If I Needed Someone, Think For Yourself, You Won't See Me. I mean, the whole album is just excellent from start to finish. Absolute perfection. Top 3. Number 3, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Such a groundbreaking, monumental album. Such an iconic album cover. It's everywhere. And I know there are some fans who find this album to be overrated or saying it's not aged well. I disagree. The album it's still a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. I just absolutely love it. We've got Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It's one of my favourite Beatles songs. A Day in the Life, the title track, With a Little Help from My Friends, Within You, Without You, which I know a lot of people don't like George Harrison's Indian songs. I love them. When I'm 64, Fixing a Hole, Getting Better, She's Leaving Home. I mean, it's a great album. And it's definitely worthy of top 3. But yeah, nothing more you can say about that hasn't been said. Number 2, Revolver. A fantastic album. This is when they started to get into psychedelic rock. They started using backwards tapes, backwards guitar. Just amazing. So we got Taxman, Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Love You Too, Here, There and Everywhere, Yellow Submarine. I love Yellow Submarine. A lot of people like to knock that song, but I love it. I have fond memories of listening to it when I was a kid. and it's still one of my favourite Beatles songs to this day. You know, they actually spent more time on recording the song Yellow Submarine than they did the entire Please Please Me album, because Please Please Me was recorded in just one day, which is amazing. It's amazing they managed to record a whole album in one day, but they actually spent more time on the song Yellow Submarine than they did on Please Please Me. So, you know, it's actually a better song than people give it credit for. She Said, Good Day Sunshine, Tomorrow Never Knows. Tomorrow Never Knows is a great psychedelic track. It's the first use of flanging on a Beatles record, and I do believe John Lennon was the guy who invented the term flanging. But yeah, I love Tomorrow Never Knows. One of my favourite Beatles songs of all time, and it should have been a single. I've no idea why it wasn't. It just shows you how great the Beatles were. You know, they had so many brilliant songs that could have been singles that weren't. But yeah, Revolver's a brilliant album. So it's number 2. And number 1, it may not be a very popular choice, but you know, it is my list, my ranking. It's Magical Mystery Tour. I know it wasn't intended to be an album by the Beatles. They released it as an EP in the UK, but you know, Capitol Records wanted to release it as an album, so they added some previously released singles that hadn't appeared on an album, and that's how this album came to be. And it's part of the official catalogue now, as I've said. So yeah, and to me, this was the only time that Capitol Records did something right, in my opinion, because I don't like that they butchered the Beatles albums, but this is the one time they actually got it right. And I have fond memories of just listening to this album. You know, I did a video on this just yesterday, like debating on whether it's a true album or not. But I love every track. The title track, The Fall on the Hill, Flying, which is it's just a beautiful psychedelic instrumental. Blue Jay Way, which is actually my favourite George Harrison song. You know, I love the dreamy atmosphere of that song. The constant flanging effect throughout, the droning organ. Just love that song. Your Mother Should Know, I Am the Walrus, Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Baby You're a Rich Man, All You Need Is Love. I love this album. And it's always been my favourite Beatles album for as long as I can remember. So that is my ranking of the Beatles albums. Did say I was going to mention a compilation at the end. Past Masters. I didn't include it in the ranking because it's a compilation and it's not a studio album, but it's an essential compilation because this includes all their commercially released songs that didn't make it onto the studio albums. So you got singles on here, B-sides, EP tracks, and single versions of songs from their albums. So you got the original single version of Love Me Do, you got the single version of Let It Be, but yeah, it's great stuff. You've also got I Want to Hold Your Hand on here, She Loves You, Hey Jude, Day Tripper, We Can Work It Out, Paperback Writer. You know, pretty much all of their best known songs. It's hard to believe that none of these songs were on proper studio albums. But yeah, this fills a gap in the collection. So if you get the 13 studio albums along with this, you've got everything. So I hope you enjoyed the ranking. Give the video a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe for more content. Click the bell so you don't miss out on a single upload. And Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another video real soon. Take care.